All right, hey everyone. Let's see if we can get live on the YouTube. Hey, it's working. Luckily, I troubleshooted it. Shout out to Lewis. Like 2 days ago, I went live with Lewis to troubleshoot everything just to make sure everything would be. It's been a while. Yep, here we go.
Okay.
All right, cool. Hello, everyone. So feel free to ask questions at any time. We'll probably won't answer them in the beginning, but we will go through them after we do most of the interview. I think we'll do like a Q&A section. So this is Miss Anna. She's also known as Miss Carnivore. I don't know how I met her. I found you on X, also known as Twitter, the platform previously known as Twitter. I don't know how I found her on Twitter. I think I was literally searching mineral balancing, or I always thought your shit was funny. I like your sense of humor. I like your sense of humor on X.
Thank you so much. Well, hello, Luke, and thanks for inviting me to this stream. I'm really happy to be here. I think it's my first mineral balancing live, so I'm quite excited to do it.
Yeah, I feel like on X you have to shoot from the hip more. It's not like Instagram or something. You can just spray it. Just
Yeah, my Instagram is like more professional, but my X I'm just like posting things there.
I'm the same way. Yeah. Instagram's very professional. That on X, I'm just like I'll just go on like a schizo rant.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so how long ago did you discover mineral balancing?
Well, I discovered it quite a long time ago. I've been familiar with it for some time, like in 2018 or 2019. I found Dr. Wilson's website through a friend, and I was just fascinated because I was like, oh, this is very interesting, but also kind of crazy. So I started researching there, but I just put it to the side because I was very focused with other health things that I was trying to fix. And at this time, it just seemed really complicated. So I just put it aside, and I knew it was a thing that existed, and I kept researching it. But I did not start doing mineral balancing until I stumbled onto some health problems that I wasn't able to solve in other ways. So that's when I decided to try it.
Okay, cool. And Clark was the first practitioner you found?
Yeah, well, no, I had already. If you want, I can give you a little bit of my background so people know where I'm coming from and how I ended up with mineral balancing. So I am I'm someone that used to be really, really sick, and my journey into this field was like really personal and rooted in my own battle with chronic illness and chronic pain, and also harm caused by medication. I was born and raised in Spain, and from a young age, I started dealing with a lot of debilitating symptoms, so like fatigue, chronic pain, menstrual pain, especially, just feeling tired all the time, insomnia, just a lot of random symptoms that were normalized. And just went to a lot of specialists in 2 different countries, and they all failed to diagnose me or treat me properly. They were just like, oh, it's just like your genes or your health or whatever, I was put on birth control when I was 19 because I was having really incapacitating periods. And that was like kind of like the start of my really, really bad health problems, because I started having like a lot of side effects from that. Once I got on the pill, I started developing things like depression, panic attacks constantly, anxiety, I gained weight. And then to suppress these symptoms, I went to the doctor and I complained, and I was like, hey, this isn't working. And they were like, no, this pill is it's just not a lot of hormones. It's mini pills, so it's not possible that it's causing all these symptoms. So instead of getting me off the birth control, they put me on benzodiazepines to treat the anxiety and the panic attacks. And now I know that all these symptoms I was experiencing from a mineral balancing perspective were caused by copper toxicity back then. Back then I didn't know. Eventually I quit the pill, but I continued having a lot of symptoms. I tried different diets. I went vegetarian, later vegan, so that made things even worse. And I struggled a lot in this period. I also moved to the States, and my symptoms got even worse. After a lot of researching, I ended up with an acupuncturist who told me, hey, why don't you stop eating gluten? And I was like, well, no one ever suggested that, but I'll try. And later on, I found out that, I quit the gluten. I started feeling so much better. And thanks to this, I realized the power of doing an elimination diet. Later on, I found out I had celiac disease. It wasn't just like an intolerance. So for like 28 years of my life, I was eating gluten while having celiac. And you can imagine all the symptoms I was dealing with. The issue with me is that I did not have any of the common symptoms that people associate with celiac disease. I wasn't having any gut problems. I wasn't like wasting away. My problems were mainly menstrual. I had a lot of endometriosis symptoms, so a lot of pain, PMDD. And another thing I had was constant panic attacks. I had no reason to be anxious. I tried to have a very calm life when I was still constantly in a state of panic. So it was a really horrible way to live, no? And after all this year, all this medication and being gaslit by the medical system, I developed a bunch of things that should have been preventable had I been diagnosed at an early age. I developed endometriosis, Hashimoto's, histamine intolerance, PMDD. And by the time that I was in my mid to late 20s, I was just like in a state of constant pain that my labs always came back normal. And once I tried going gluten-free, that's when I got a glimpse of what feeling better is like. One thing that happened during this time too is that, like I said, I was on a lot of medication. I was on benzodiazepines. I was also on opioids for pain. So imagine the cocktail I was on to be functional. And I went to a doctor one time to get my prescription, and she decided randomly, oh, your dose is too high, so I'm going to lower your dose. I had no idea you could not lower your dose abruptly. I had no idea you could get so sick. No one ever warned me about this when I started this medication at 19. And here I was a decade later, going into benzodiazepine withdrawal, acute withdrawal, started having seizures. I had a near-death experience because of this incompetent doctor, because he lowered my dose like 90% at once. This was super traumatic, as you can imagine. But I was able to reinstate the medication. And once I saw what was going on, I was like, I need to get off this. Eventually I found a doctor in Spain. I had to go to Spain to do it because it was really, I couldn't afford it to do it in the States because it was like $600 per session or something crazy. Well, I wasn't able to work because I was very, very sick from this. So I moved back to Spain with my family. It took me 2 years to get off this medication. I'm getting to the end of the story now, as I promised. Okay. So I did a benzo taper and I finished it. It took me 2 years and I finished it in 2018. And my problems didn't end there because once I finished the taper, a lot of problems that were probably hidden came to the surface. So I developed mast cell activation syndrome, and I also developed very serious digestive problems. So I started reacting basically to every food. I also started reacting to hot weather, hot showers, to exercise. So basically a typical MCAS case. And I had to go on a carnivore diet. And this carnivore diet, hence my name, I go on this carnivore diet. And it was super helpful because basically it put all these symptoms into remission. It changed my mood. It changed the color of my skin, my hair, my nails, everything got so much healthier and better, like almost overnight. Like I know some people love to talk shit about the carnivore diet, but for me, it was very, very, very helpful at one point in my time. But I do agree that it's not normal to only tolerate eating meat. And I think it's something that if you really need to do it for medical reasons, should only be done temporarily. So I eventually started researching with the help of a naturopath. I found out about mycotherapy, and I was able to heal my gut, and I was able to start reintroducing foods. And this is when I get interested in health as a job too. So I launched my social media, first just to share my carnivore journey, and then just evolve into what it is now. That's what my name is, Miss Carnivore on social media, because originally started like a personal account to share my carnivore journey. And it's just ended up like this. I haven't bothered rebranding because everybody knows me at Miss Carnivore, but I do a lot more things than that. And interestingly, most of the clients, I started this in 2020, most of the clients I had since 2020, they don't do carnivore or they don't want to do it. The ones that come to me because they're doing carnivore already is because the carnivore diet isn't working for them. So my job is more than guiding people through carnivore, is like helping them tolerate foods again and, fix their health more completely. What else? Yes, so basically after I reintroduced foods, I started experimenting with different diets, see what worked for me. So I did a bit of Weston A. diet, then I did a year of pro-metabolic diet, and then I realized I'm actually quite stressed. I'm more stressed than I thought. And in 2023, I had a really bad situation work-wise with someone that was taking advantage of me, and I became very, very burnout. I wasn't really having many physical symptoms because my gut was in good shape and all that, but I was very, very burnout, and I had a very, very low tolerance to stress. Like I told you before, I was already familiar with mineral balancing, but I hadn't really found a practitioner that I felt confident in. So then I met Claire Engelbert through Instagram, and he seemed to know what he was talking about. He also had a similar experience with psychiatric drugs that caused him a lot of harm, dysregulating your health and your nervous system. So I felt like he was the right person to help me. I was right. He really helped me. Within days of starting my program, I started feeling so much better. Like my tolerance to stress had improved a lot. I started making decisions with my business. I started setting boundaries that I should have set earlier. And I just started feeling a lot better in my body, a lot calmer. So shout out to Claire if you're watching us.
Yeah,
And to me, what?
Yeah, shout out to Clark. Actually,
Yeah,
I helped Clark get off the benzos.
I know. Oh, you helped him. Oh.
Yeah, Clark was a client.
I didn't know you were the practitioner.
What's that?
I didn't know you were his practitioner then.
Yeah, I was his practitioner, and I helped him get off the benzos.
Oh, that's awesome. I wish I had known about mineral balancing back then, because I feel it could have been super helpful, because I spent like 2 years where I barely slept at all. But then when I found about mineral balancing in around 2018, I was super intolerant to every supplement because of the NCAS. So at that point, I didn't feel like it was the right moment for me to try it. But once I decided to try it, it makes sense to me because it really addresses the body at a very deep biochemical level. It addresses your adrenals, detoxification, and the balance of minerals, and eliminating toxic metals. So it just makes sense, but not everybody is at the right point, at the right place to start it, because it's quite involved in some ways, no? But anyway, the results I got were really, really transformative in terms, so it helped me regulate my nervous system. So I decided to train, and I joined the HTMA Secrets course with Clark and Dr. Stillman, because I knew I had to bring this approach to others, because mineral balancing is getting more known in English-speaking countries. But so far, I think I'm the only practitioner that has trained in this method in line with Dr. Eck's teachings in the Spanish-speaking world. Mm-hmm. And I have some clients. In general, I was getting very good results with my clients, but I have like a small subset of clients that could improve, but then could get worse again. And it's because we were not looking into their mineral patterns. It was often people that were in for lows. Well, today I'm proud to say I reverted all these health problems I had in the past, and I feel like things just keep improving with mineral balancing.
Yeah, carnivore can be especially useful in the beginning. I've had some clients do carnivore with mineral balancing in the beginning, especially just because some people have such bad histamine intolerance they can't even handle any vegetables really in the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen that with my clients too. People love to say bad things about carnivore now. It's become kind of trendy, but to me, it was life-saving, really. If I did carnivore now, I'm sure I couldn't feel as good. But back then, it was the right thing for me. I have a feeling it's particularly beneficial for people that are in fast oxidation, because I had a feeling I was in very fast oxidation. And then when I went carnivore, I was eating very high fat, and that definitely helped me calm down because I felt the benefits right away.
Yeah. That's kind of why you have the argument like the repeat people that like the sugar and the carbs, and then the carnivore, and then like the keto people that feel great off of that. It's because those people are probably in fast oxidation that do the keto carnivore, and the people that really do good off of repeat are probably slow oxidizers.
Yeah, for years I was wondering, why do some people feel better on this? Why do some people feel better on that? And when I learned mineral balancing, everything made sense to me.
Yeah, it's like magic. You can just tell, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy that they took you off. The doctor took you off 90% right away. I do not recommend that to most people. That's
No, I don't recommend it because I had been on them for like around 10 years at that point,
yeah.
and I was on a quite high dose, like I was on 6 milligrams. So you can imagine what that did to me.
Yeah, most people, I recommend doing it very slowly.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah, well, I wasn't aware that I didn't go to the doctor with the intention of, hey, take me off this medication, because I was having panic attacks on them too. I was having like withdrawal in between doses at that point, I'm sure. So she just decided, for any random reason, because I think it was the first or second time I saw that doctor. And she just decided that, and I'm not gonna argue with her because then they labeled you as drug seeking. So I was like, okay, whatever. I had no clue. I was dependent. I was physically dependent on them. I always took things as prescribed, but especially in America, because in Spain, I got on this medication in Spain, and in Spain they give them to you like candy. Like you go to the doctor, and, oh, I can sleep, or my hand hurts. They'll put you on benzodiazepines for any reason. But in America, it's a lot more control. So when I was there, this doctor, I don't know, because maybe I look healthy. She probably thought I was taking it recreationally or something. I don't know, without even looking at my medical history or asking me questions. And I wasn't in a state of mind to argue this. I was using chronic pain, trying to get through it. And yeah, it's horrible that happened, but at least it led me to better health. Because maybe if that never happened, maybe I will still be on that medication on an even higher dose now.
One interesting thing is I have noticed women can go off of them faster.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's because it's ego related. Men have more ego in relation to the world. Yeah. And so if they start getting more stimulus from the world, it shatters their ego more than a woman. Does that make sense?
It took me 2 years, so I don't know if that's fast or slow to you.
Yeah.
I will just say. But yeah. I was on a really high dose, and I was also dealing with a lot of symptoms, and I was very sensitive to any drops in medication.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Okay. So you started your own healing journey that way, started learning it. So I was reading like one of the things that you kind of specialize in is autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your own experience with autoimmune disease and how it's helped your clients as well with mineral balancing?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, autoimmune disease is something that people, or at least the allopathic medical system, they have this idea that is just caused by your body attacking itself, and it couldn't be further from the truth. What's happening is that your body is just creating an immune reaction to protect itself from something that is being perceived as a threat. In my case, it was gluten, but it can also happen with heavy metals and other chemicals. And I just think autoimmune issues are on the rise, where people they know have an autoimmune problem or not. They're definitely on the rise because of the modern lifestyle, stress, circadian disruption, poor diets full of processed foods and heavy metals, mycotoxins. These are all triggers that can lead people to develop an autoimmune disease. There are a lot of situations where someone might be having autoimmune symptoms and they don't even know it. Because in my case, I never knew I had autoimmune problems. I was going to the doctors, but they were not giving me proper testing or anything. They will just do blood work and be like, basic blood work. And they're like, oh, everything is normal. You're fine. It's in your head, so keep taking your medication. Once they put you on medication for anxiety, everything that happens to you is going to be labeled as anxiety. So it's really horrible. If you can help it, never go on any psychiatric medication, because there's just going to be all in your head after that. So what's happening with autoimmune issues is that a lot of people, they're having them and they're not even aware it's an autoimmune problem, because in my case, no doctor ever informed me that I was having autoimmune problems, even when I was seeking like an endometriosis diagnose, or when I was seeking like a celiac or gluten intolerant diagnose. No one ever informed me, oh, you have an autoimmune problem. They just told me, this is chronic, this is not possible to cure. So basically, I reverse engineer my problems, because I started treating the symptoms without knowing I had autoimmune problems. Somehow I was able to fix it, which is not an easy feat, because if I had known it was an autoimmune problem, I could have probably gone online and researched autoimmunity and be more informed about it. But I think the first time I heard about the concept of autoimmunity was when I started the carnivore diet, which is basically by the point I was already fixing everything. And I wanted to add that our exposure to metals and other chemicals has increased dramatically in like the last 100 years or so, and our bodies are really struggling to keep up with detoxification. And keep in mind, when these metals gain access to your cells via a process called ionic mimicry, they substitute for essential minerals at the enzyme sites, and this impairs the detoxification processes even more. So it's often not enough with doing, I'm going to do a liver cleanse, or I'm going to go on some detox juicing fasting protocol. This is not enough, because these metals are deep in your body. There's this myth that the heavy metals are accumulating just in your fatty tissues, but that's not true. They can be in your organs, and they can be impairing your detoxification procedures. You also have to add to this that a lot of people are having gut dysbiosis, nutrient deficiencies, and we're exposed to metals pretty much from the point that we are born. We inherit metals through the placenta from our moms. Then we're also subjected to certain treatments. I don't think I can mention them here, but containing aluminum and other things that can impair immune functions. And there's also the issue of unresolved trauma too, and chronic stress. It's rare to meet someone these days that doesn't have some degree of stress or nervous system dysregulation. So all these things can impact the immune system, and this is what we're seeing right now. Like nowadays, almost everybody has some sort of health problem, whether they know it or not.
Yeah. So with autoimmune disease, especially like your more extreme cases, like your worst cases of autoimmune disease, are there any specific like HTMA patterns that are associated with autoimmune disease, you would say?
Definitely, yeah. So the patterns I see the most are I often see calcium shells, which is calcium levels that are very elevated in the hair.
Mm-hmm.
I had one for many years too. I got rid of it recently. And this can happen to people who have experienced chronic stress or trauma. And it often reflects like a protective mechanism in the body that ultimately it can disrupt your immune function. Calcium is like mineral it has an effect that is calming or numbing, protective. And when someone is stressed or has gone through traumatic events, this calcium is extracted from the bones to create this type of shell that numbs or protects you. So you get a false sense of calm. You're basically numb to all these stressors. And this leads to calcification.
It's kind of like your body's natural antidepressant.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But it is. It's
because
yeah.
Your body's always working to help you, not to harm you. But we have this idea when we're having symptoms. Oh no, my body's doing this again. Well, sending you signal so you can fix it.
Right.
Another pattern that I see very frequently is hidden copper toxicity. Most people that I see with autoimmune issues, they tend to be in a slow oxidation. And this is especially common with women with like hormonal problems like endometriosis or PCOS. Or this copper is the issue with this copper is that it's not bioavailable, and this means that this copper is there in the organs or in the tissues, but your body cannot utilize it. And this can drive inflammation and affect the nervous system. It can make it much harder to regulate the immune response. Copper toxicity is super common nowadays, especially in women that have used hormonal birth control or the copper IUD, and also people that have been vegan or vegetarian, because these diets are very rich in copper but low in zinc. But I even see it in people that haven't done any of this. They can also develop copper toxicity, especially when they're exposed to toxic metals like mercury. Other patterns that I see very frequently, because they tend to have more than one at the same time, is what I refer to like exhaustion or burnout patterns. That means people that are in 3 or 4 lows. These patterns mean that the person doesn't have a good thyroid or adrenal function, and they're in a state of burnout. In this test, it can be seen like the main 3 or 4 minerals, they're below the ideal level. And I will say in people with more acute symptoms of like allergies, fatigue, food intolerances, they're quite often in 4 lows, which is the state where you are the most depleted and exhausted. It's like the 3 lows is the previous step to 4 lows, and 4 lows is like basically when your health is like at rock bottom, I will say. Nothing's working for you at that point. I get a lot of clients that are in that point, that they tried everything and they're not improving. Another thing that I see often is that people have imbalances with their NK ratio, which reflects adrenal fatigue and chronic stress. Last but not least, they also have like, I would say like 90% of them are in a sympathetic dominance pattern, and they have hidden metals in their bodies. This means that when you do a test, it can seem that you don't have any toxic metals because the readings look very low, but this doesn't mean that you don't have any metal. This means that they are below the surface. Your body does not have the ability to detoxify them, so they're being stored in the body, and you just keep accumulating more and more, and this is going to impair every function in your body. The good news is that if you're in any of these patterns, they can be improved and reverted with a mineral balancing program, and you can start improving your symptoms and even put your autoimmune illness into remission.
Yeah, and going back to 4 lows, I think that's one of the reasons why mineral balancing is becoming more popular. It's because more of the population is going into 4 lows. And mineral balancing is the only program that I know of that even recognizes the pattern and can really feel it. And so we talk about how a lot of people are helped by carnivore and keto because they're in fast oxidation. There's some people in slow oxidation that really like the repeat stuff. But there's also a subset that aren't helped by either. They might get some temporary relief, but they're not really healing at a deep level. And as more and more people go into 4 lows, less and less things are helping those people. And mineral balance shines in that because we're the only people that recognize that. It's almost a separate metabolic pattern.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I tell my clients that are in 4 lows, that is like another type of metabolism. And that's what really made me, because here's the thing. I had a business that was working perfectly fine, just doing like animal-based diets. And I was never a fan of keto. I was more into giving people some carbohydrates, especially after I learned about poor metabolic. But I was getting good results, but I have like a small subset of clients that we will improve one thing, but then the problem will come back, or they will continue being hyperreactive. And once I learned about 4 lows, I was like, okay, this person has 4 lows. This other person has it too. And then we run the test, and they all did. And I was like, okay, this is it. I need to change my practice completely and just focus on mineral balancing, because this is it.
Yeah. And as more, I think that's one of the big reasons why mineral balancing is becoming more popular, for sure. Okay, let's talk about some other things with your practice. So, how are you currently approaching mineral balancing? Do you use more of the Endomet line or the Valence? Do you have people kind of slowly start up the supplements?
Personally, I use both. Really depends on the client and their budget, where they're located. Because the problem we're having right now, is that in Spain, we don't have anybody distributing either of these brands. So when I started doing these changes, I was kind of concerned about that because it's like, let's see if it's easy to convince people to order these things abroad. We had a couple places that ship Endomet in Europe, but it's not as cheap or as fast as buying something with Amazon Prime, for example. So for people in Spain, they often do Endomet because it's just easier to get. It gets there faster. But I also have clients that are in the States or in South America or other countries. And in those cases, I tend to recommend Balance because I feel it's more bioavailable and eventually you need less supplements, I started with Endomet because I think Balance was starting then. And then I started trying some things that Lewis had in his store here in the UK. And I really liked the changes I felt with the CalMac Fusion and the Zinc Matrix Pro. Were the first ones that they launched. Yeah, I took like the initial versions. So I started getting more into those. And for the past few months, I've been doing mostly Balance, except for the things that they haven't launched yet, like a Renamide equivalent. So I've been doing a Balance experiment with myself, and I really like it. I think it's quite good, especially if you don't like taking as many pills, because now, for example, Endomet, they changed the paramine. So now if you need a high dose of paramine, you're going to be taking like 8-10 pills a day, which can be a lot, So yeah, it just really depends on the client, on the budget, and really hoping like Balance goes more international and maybe they start shipping from Europe because that would be ideal. From what I've seen, they're a lot more bioavailable, so you eventually end up needing less, even if it's a bit more expensive to start with.
Yeah, I think they'll start shipping the company that they use for warehousing might add a European warehouse.
I saw something on their Instagram. I hope it becomes true. Because I don't use it just for mineral balancing. I also have another practitioner in my clinic, and we work from a mineral balancing perspective with her, but we don't do full programs. We do more like basic supplements, and then we mix it with mycotherapy maybe. For people that are not as ready to invest as much time or money into a full mineral balancing program, and also people that are very sensitive and can only take like 2 or 3 supplements. So with these people, we also use some basic stuff, and it could be cool if we could get them on Balance because I feel they're a lot more powerful.
So you work with mostly people from Spanish-speaking countries? So like Spain, like what, Mexico, South America,
Spain,
Argentina?
Yeah, and also like in the States, there's a lot of Spanish speakers. Yeah, mostly, yeah.
Do you notice any difference, like any cultural differences working with people?
Oh yeah, a bit, yeah. I feel not all of them. Okay, this is a generalization, of course, but I feel clients from English-speaking countries, they tend to do a lot more research by themselves, and they try more things. They're more open to new things. And in Spain, you have to be like. And I also feel they're more willing to spend money on their health, because a lot of times in Spain, maybe it's because we had like public healthcare system, which isn't very helpful at all, the remote health. But I feel people, when they come from countries where we have free, quote unquote, free healthcare, they feel like anything that isn't spending money on their health is a waste of money, when in reality is an investment, But I feel they had a bit more trouble. But once they see their effects, they get into it and they're, oh yeah, this is totally worth it. Now in the beginning, there can be some more resistance.
Yeah. Do you think there's a little bit of food resistance? Sometimes I've noticed that from Spanish-speaking countries, they're more ingrained into their food patterns.
Oh yeah, definitely. And not just food resistance, but like with the quality of food. I feel like a lot of people are not willing to do the change into eating better quality meat or eating. I'm not saying people that cannot afford it. Okay, I'm not criticizing that, because I've been there when I started carnivore diet. I wasn't working. I guess I wasn't getting any government help or anything. So I was just eating meat from the butcher. And I felt very good on that. So I'm not saying you have to go organic or spend money you cannot afford on things. But I feel like in general, Americans especially are more aware of the crap that is in the food system, and they're more willing to spend more money on good quality foods. But in Spain, people have this idea like, oh no, if it's in the is it from the butcher or is in the in grocery, it's gonna be good because the government they're not gonna allow things that are bad for me, So they really have that belief, or they're not, even if they can afford it, sometimes they're not willing to do the change. And it's such a difference once you switch in flavor and in nutrient density.
I feel like in America, the differences are more drastic. So in Spain, the quality of the food in general is better than America. If I was just to go to a restaurant in Spain and order some food, the quality compared to the basic restaurant in America is going to be much higher.
Yeah.
But you can also get like the highest quality food in the world in America. It's like there's a drastic difference. Either you're eating like the bottom tier, just slop,
Yeah.
or you can get like the highest, you can go to like, and get really, really high quality organic food.
I noticed that in the UK too, because I'm in the UK now, and I feel the quality of the meat and the organic veg is much better here than in Spain. And when I live in the States too, and I felt when I live in the States, it was in general much easier. I mean, depends on where you live, of course, but if you're living in a big city, it's much easier to find organic food like vegetables and meat. In Spain, it's quite hard. Like when I got to Spain, I just had to order everything online, and I go to my city, and you cannot find every vegetable you want in organic form. So I feel it's kind of it needs to improve in that way a bit.
Yeah. And then, but the bottom at the same time, the bottom tier of food in America is horrendous.
The worst of the worst. And even when you're doing good foods, because for example, when I moved to America, I was already, I will say, I was trying to be a healthy eater, but I was vegetarian, so it wasn't very, very healthy looking back. But growing up in Spain, I only ate things with like olive oil, But then I moved there, and I have no clue about seed oils or anything or fortification. And I started eating the foods there, and I was buying healthy organic things, and I started feeling so much worse. Like in a matter of like a couple months, I started feeling so much worse. And now I know it was probably like the glyphosate. I wasn't buying everything organic, but I was I didn't move there. If I had known I was going to get so sick, I could have never moved there, because when you do an international move, you have to be kind of healthy and capable to do things. But within a couple of months of being there, I was so much worse. I developed chemical sensitivity, so who knows what I was exposed to. It tends to happen to a lot of people that move from Europe to there, and vice versa. When Americans visit Europe, they say they feel much better. Oh, I can eat bread here,
Yeah, most Americans, when they move to Europe or visit Europe, like Spain even, they feel much better. Just because most people are eating that kind of, they're eating that mass food, the bottom tier food.
Yeah.
And then when they go to Europe and they're eating the same level of food, the food there is just, it's much higher quality, especially the wheat. The wheat in America is atrocious.
It's horrible. And then they fortified with iron. It's really, really horrible. But even with the vegetables, I feel like in Spain, if you buy a vegetable that is not organic, it's a bit weird, but the quality is still so much better than if you buy something non-organic in the UK or in the States.
Yeah, for sure. But in America, you can get really high, like where I live, I can get really high quality food, like going to the like local co-op or something, or like you can like order beef and stuff like that. But the bottom tier food, like you were to get at a restaurant, even like just a mid tier restaurant, it's pretty bad, unfortunately.
Yeah, and they're cooking everything with seed oils is quite bad, because at least in Spain, even if you go to like a cheap restaurant, the worst they're gonna use is probably sunflower oil, and if you ask them to use olive oil or butter, they'll do that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so anything that in your practice, like do you have any tips, like anything that you've really noticed helps people? Like for me, what I've noticed is like an underrated part of the program is probably the pulling down exercise. Just because I
don't do that enough.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's harder to market, So like if I'm going to make an Instagram post, I'm going to get more views if I talk about like some mineral and how the enzymes interact, and some kind of like sciencey study I found. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I'm talking about the pulling down exercise, it's a little bit, it's harder to convey. It's harder to market, I would say.
Yeah,
It's more
there are some
esoteric.
parts. There are some
Yeah.
parts that are too esoteric, and people feel people are looking for quick fixes and whatever helps them fastest. And I feel they don't even like the diet much, because a lot of people that come to me, they come from the keto world or carnivore, or they don't, even if they're not doing that, they're not eating much veg. So when you tell them, oh, you have to eat all these vegetables, they're like, why, you crazy? Why do I have to eat? I don't like this veg. I like them fried or something. I don't like them steamed. So it's kind of hard to get them into the diet. That once, it was hard for me too. And when I started working with Clara, I was like, you really want me to eat all those veg? But once I started eating them, I was like, oh, I actually feel good with this. I can digest this. But I feel one thing that helps, because I tend to work with really sensitive patients. One thing that helps is introducing the supplements very, very slowly, especially when they had a high toxic load or when they're hypersensitive. I always start them one supplement at a time, and I tell them to open the capsule and start very slowly. And I tend to start with the supplements that tend to cause like less reactions, like basic things, and then I go up from that to things like kelp, which, they can cause more reactions in some people. And in people that are hypersensitive, sometimes I don't even do a full program. I start with a few things only, and then I start adding more things later on, depending on how they're reacting, especially people that have like things like mold illness or MCAS. It's better to start with little, because it can be overwhelming to the system if you do too many things. One thing I like recommending them a lot too is I love the coffee enemas. I recommend that quite a lot, because I feel that's something that everybody, almost everybody can do, and it's very cheap and very efficient. They were essential for my healing, and this was way before I did mineral balancing. It was the only thing I tolerated, so I think I was kind of balancing minerals a bit indirectly back then, even when I was doing carnivore. And another thing I love is the sauna. Like, if you got time and you got some space, get yourself a sauna, because it's gonna speed up the results so much faster, and you're just gonna feel great with it.
Yeah. Another big thing is underrated, along with the pulling down exercise, is chiropractic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Clark always recommends that. I'm kind of afraid of them like twisting my neck, so I haven't done that yet. I don't do reflexology. I don't do reflexology.
I die. Just.
I think my nervous system is not ready to be like quite yet.
Yeah.
But I do recommend the reflexology. It's something that you can also do yourself, and is free. So all those little things that can be done for free, I tend to recommend them a lot, because people are already like, the type of client I get is people that have already invested a lot of money on supplements and treatments and all that. And, they're already spending money on testing and supplements. So if you can make the other things a bit easier, because you can't tell someone right away, hey, buy this sauna or build this sauna, but you can tell them, hey, massage your feet a little bit every day, or do the pull down exercise. I recommend the pull down exercise, especially to people that are not willing, or they cannot do sauna or coffee enemas. I recommend it a lot in those cases. I'm like, well, you got to pick at least one of these things to do it, to help balance your energy.
What I tell people is just do them while you do your coffee enemas. Just do the pulling down exercise.
And the spinal twist, I love the spinal twist. I do the spinal twist during the coffee enemas. I like, how you do it? Well, it's just practice,
Yeah.
But I like the spinal twist. I feel good.
Yeah, I feel like if people are doing the coffee enemas for around 30 minutes anyway, like you can do the pulling down exercise for about 30 minutes. And
yeah.
So that's a great trick that I use with people. And the coffee, honestly, it helps do the pulling down exercise. I don't really understand it, but maybe it's partially probably because your awareness is already on that area of the body.
Yeah. When I tend to do I have because I'm in the UK and it gets really dark here in winter, I got a sun lamp, like a tanning bed. And when I'm in the tanning bed, I tend to do it there, and I get really in the zone there, and that's when I tend to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that's nice about Spain. It's more a sunny country, isn't it? They have nice weather.
Yeah, we got really nice weather, but it's really bad country if you're like entrepreneurial, want to run a business, want to do crypto. All those things are not really. It's not very good in there
Yeah,
because
they have the taxes are and the bureaucracy.
yeah. When you're self-employed in Spain, it's just like taxes are crazy. Like you have to pay like 300 euro a month just because you're self-employed, and plus then the VAT and all those stuff. Anyone I know that is kind of having certain success with their business, they leave Spain the second they can, because they're just letting you dry with taxes there.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I don't live there, among other reasons.
Yeah. So, besides autoimmune disease, any other things that you're seeing more of with people?
Very dysregulated nervous systems, which kind of go hand in hand with the autoimmune disease, because once your nervous system gets dysregulated, then the thing that follows is dysregulation of the nervous system. And if you don't address that, it's pretty much impossible to heal from the autoimmunity. So it's very important.
I'm plugging my computer here. Is it already plugged in? No, my computer to die.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was saying, like, yeah, a lot of people, they're not even aware of how stressed they are, because they've been running on a stress hormones sometimes since childhood. So it's very important to address that. And a lot of times I also recommend them to do things like somatic exercises and things like, because that can also be quite helpful along with a mineral balancing program. Because some people, a lot of people, they try to pull on exercise and they're like, oh, I don't feel anything, or, I cannot focus. But if you get them on a somatic exercise, I feel it's going to have a very good effect too on their nervous system, but they're more constantly doing it.
Somatic exercise? What is that?
Yeah, somatic exercises. So it's like basically something that was developed for people with like post-traumatic stress. And basically, there are exercises that you do to reconnect with your body, because that the trauma it's not in your mind, it's really in your body. So basically what you're trying to do with them is regulate your nervous system, and it's often like very slow movements, just reconnecting your body. It's hard to explain, but if you look it up, there's like courses online, and there's a lot of information.
Yeah, I might try that.
Yeah, they're very good for me. For me, they were very helpful. I started doing them before I tried mineral balancing, because I was like, okay, this is my nervous system is fried. And I was getting benefits, but if I stopped doing it, my chronic stress and my nervous system dysregulation will come back, And once I started the mineral balancing and combined it with that, then I felt so much better. So combination is very helpful, I find.
Yeah, so is it like movements, or is it like stretches, or is it both?
There's different approaches, because there's also something called somatic yoga, which is more like you stretch a bit more, but in general it's very slow. You just lay on your bed, or you can do it in a chair, depending on the parts of your body, but usually you start with the hips, and then you can work up to the neck, the shoulders, the jaw. And often it's like what happens with trauma release exercises. Your body, once you start releasing, you start shaking, and all these stressors and trauma, they come out, and you start regulating yourself.
Yeah. The two most common places I would say in the body where people hold stress is number one, the neck, like right here, and then also the hips.
Yeah, and the jaw too, because the jaw is connected to the hips.
Yeah. Another thing that I notice is most people's left side is more collapsed.
Really? I have the opposite. My attention is always on my right one.
Yeah.
Interesting you say that, because I always, whenever I was having like TMJ problems, it was always my right side. When I was having menstrual pain, it was always on my right side. Yeah. So
usually it's the left.
That's interesting. I'll have to research that. Yeah. That's very interesting.
That's interesting. You're a unique one.
Yeah. But yeah, people are holding a lot of stress and a lot of trauma, and that cannot be addressed with just some pills or a quick detox. You need to address that too.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, sometimes, people can take a little more of the CalMag as well. Sometimes that can help.
I tend to recommend that, yeah, more CalMac and a lot of rest, because one thing that I see is that when they start a program, some people start feeling more energy and they're like, okay, I'm going to start doing more things. And I'm like, no, you got to rest. You got to rest or you're going to stay in sympathetic dominance.
Right. Okay. Well, I think let's see if we have. Unfortunately, I didn't push live till like halfway through the interview. It doesn't really matter because it's going to be recorded anyway.
Oh, well.
I don't think we're going to have many questions. Here, let me check the Instagram, actually.
Oh, we're live on Instagram, too.
Yeah, see if you have any questions on your Instagram.
Okay, let's see. Probably not, because it's mostly in Spanish. So.
Yeah, what we can do, too, is we can use if you want to make clips from it, you can use AI and you can turn it into Spanish.
Yeah, the funny thing is that I started my account in English because everybody that was talking about Carnivore was doing it in English, and then I got a lot of Spanish people like, hey, translate this, I don't understand it. So that's why I moved into the Spanish thing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I think we'll probably about wrap it up. Do you have any questions for me? Anything else you want to talk about?
Oh, not really. I think we cover up a lot. Basically, I just wanted to say that if you're on the fence about trying mineral balancing because you feel like you try it all, you should really try it. Find a good practitioner, one that works in the line that we do with Dr. Eck and Dr. Wilson research. Because there's a lot of practitioners that are doing substitution therapy and that doesn't quite work. So find yourself a good practitioner that can guide you. Because the results are amazing, and not just because in my case I wasn't having many physical symptoms, but to me the changes that I love the most are the changes I have like in my perception, in my focus, in my nervous system regulation. I'm much better at setting boundaries with people. I notice with my clients too, like they feel sometimes the changes are not so much on the physical, but on like the mental and spiritual level. And I think that's a very interesting part of mineral balancing that we don't talk about enough.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially like I noticed, especially like my young male clients, they all become entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
They all become successful. You know what I mean? So it's like people think that like these things are holding them back, but really, if they just get healthy,
Yeah, I have some pretty funny cases. Like I had some people like finding God, and then I also had a client who was really afraid of driving her motorcycle, and she was telling me yesterday that one day she just got up and decided to get on her bike, and now she's going on the motorcycle every day on roads. So it's like sometimes it's things like that, like fears that you had that you didn't even know that were things that you were pushing you back, and then once you start regulating your minerals, life becomes easier in every way.
Yeah, and people realize they're in a toxic relationship and they need boundaries.
Oh yeah, I have some of those breakups too. Yeah, I've seen those too. Yeah. For me, it was like a toxic work collaboration. Like within 2 days of being on mineral balancing, I was like, hey, I'm done with this.
Yeah. The first 2 days I started mineral balancing, I slept like 14 hours, 2 days in a row.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. No, I just feel so much happier and so much more relaxed. Like within a couple of days, it's crazy how effective it can be in some cases. Not for everybody. For some people, it can take more time to see the results. But if you are already kind of healthy when you start, the results usually you can notice them quite fast.
Yeah. And some clients too. You could try the nerve calm.
Oh yeah, I've been trying that too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's for some people, it's quite useful too to help calm the nerves, especially people with like sympathetic sympathetic dominance.
Yeah, I've been using that too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so where can people find you?
They can find me on my website, misscarnivore.com. You can also find me on Twitter, where I have my less serious post. My handle is Miss Carnivore, and I'm also Miss Carnivore on Instagram, but I post mostly in Spanish there, and Twitter is in English.
Okay. Yeah, then I will. I'll get all the links from you for your social media, and then I will put them in the info section of the video.
Awesome.
All right, Anna, it was nice chatting with you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah,
Nice
maybe
chatting
we'll
to
do
you
it again
too.
sometime. Maybe we'll do a Twitter Spaces next.
We should. Yeah, like this. Thank you so much for the people that watch us too.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye bye.